Hey everyone, this is Victor with Programmatic Academy. We're going to be discussing Section 1, the history of programmatic. In the beginning, the process was very manual and type of dumb buying. We went from that to automated and intelligent. In 1994, we had Yahoo being the biggest search engine at the time and sort of directory or portal as they used to call them. And that's when a lot of the publishers started appearing, like ESPN and some other major ones. This is the time from 94 up until about 2000 where the big internet bubble happened, and it expanded and it grew into the consumer-based internet that we know today. If we look at 96, that's when we had sort of the first ad networks appear. 2000, Google appeared with their search model. 2005, we had ad exchanges. 2007, some of the first DSPs appeared. 2010, we had some agency trade desk startup. 2011 was when bloggers started talking about it, such as Ad Exchanger. 2013 is when it really went mainstream within digital marketing circles. And we had big conferences such as Programmatic I/O. So if we go back to that 1994 time with Yahoo, for example, and we're an advertiser, we say, hey, I need some impressions. Yahoo gives you a price per CPM. You send Yahoo the banners, they run it, send the report back. Very straightforward, very simple. And to this day, a lot of buys are still being run this way. It's a manual process, but this is okay if you're only buying one or two publishers. Okay. Funny note here on the side note here, some banners back then didn't even have links in order for you to click through to anywhere. So it was simply views. As time went on, the internet was growing exponentially. Publishers started appearing everywhere. Things started to get more complicated. The advertiser had to sign a bunch of IOs, negotiate with a bunch of publishers, and this just made the process very complicated and cumbersome. Okay? As you know, the goal of marketing is to reach the right target in order to promote an action. By buying so many different sites, it really was not a very efficient way of reaching your target. As you know, if you wanted to buy a specific site to hit the demographic of, let's say, for example, men 18 to 25, sure, a portion of that site is going to be about that or include that demo, but obviously not all of it. And this is going to become a major part of why programmatic took off. So there was a need and an opportunity for centralization. Okay, and advertising.com, ValueClick, those first ad networks saw the value in categorizing or putting together by vertical a bunch of sites and representing those sites, and and then selling them to advertisers. The advertiser saw value in only having to deal with one or two ad networks and having the reach and scale of a bunch of different sites across various different verticals. One thing that started to arise here, though, among advertisers was a concern for transparency. However, scale was improved drastically, and generally costs went down when we did this model. I want to go back to transparency for a second, because that's a recurring theme in digital marketing, especially in programmatic, and you'll be hearing a lot more about it. Maybe not in this course, but in the following courses for sure. However, later on, even with ad networks, there was so much internet inventory available that there was still a more need for centralization. Okay, and this is where the concept of the ad exchange came in. So this is around 2005. Now, in order to buy all this inventory, a new model of buying was needed. And that's when RTB was born, real-time bidding, as you've probably heard. And RTB was basically adopted from search, since search, in case you haven't ever run a search campaign, search is a bidding model. You bid on a keyword and you're bidding against other people for that keyword positioning. So ad exchanges really grew, and essentially we'll get more in detail into what an ad exchange is, but it's basically involves some ad networks, publishers. It can involve different formats, at least as it is today. However, we got to a problem with the ad exchange and having all this inventory available to us in order to purchase. Okay, and this is where programmatic was basically born. So all programmatic was adding an intelligent algorithm to that buying in order to focus on the right target. Okay, as we know, the goal of marketing is to hit the right target, compel them to take an action. So this is where programmatic was essentially born, and this is where the shift focused from buying media to buying audience, which is kind of the big selling point of programmatic. At this point, we also started having big data take off. Big data is another buzzword you hear all the time, but essentially it's just all the byproduct of the campaigns produce a lot of data. If you're tracking, you need that data, but you need to do it intelligently. Anyway, so this is where programmatic was born. And why exactly has programmatic been so successful in capturing everybody's attention? Like I mentioned previously, one of the main things it did was solve the problem of buying media in order to reach a target. We bypassed that entire process and we focus simply on the target. Okay, this obviously gives us effectiveness, control, insights, transparency, efficiency, and knowledge. Effectiveness because the campaign performs better when you're hitting the right target. You get incremental sales, reach, awareness, etc. Control because in a lot of cases, as we'll see with agency trading desks, we're no longer outsourcing the buying of the media or the audience in this case to the vendor, the publisher. We're doing a lot of that in-house, so we get to see everything. We get to control how the campaign runs, handles, and not only that, within the platform itself, you have a lot of options for blacklisting, whitelisting, segments, geographies, audiences, etc. Transparency. If you control, you get to see what exactly is going on. Insights. You get to learn more about the audiences, which are working better, discover new audiences for your campaigns. Efficiency. And this is where I think a big misconception is about programmatic, where some people have are under the impression that programmatic is simply just cheap traffic. It may have been at one point when it started out, but that is no longer the case. It is the case though that there is a lot of good premium inventory that can be bought for far less, because a lot of premium publishers have opened up their inventory to the exchanges. But to say that programmatic is just cheap traffic is not really accurate right now. And knowledge, like I said, before we were, outsourcing the buying of the media to the publishers. They were running the campaigns. The only thing a media planner did was assign IOs and do the media plan in the Excel. But now, if you have traders in-house, whether it's through a trade desk or you just running it directly on the platform, etc., that knowledge stays in-house. So that helps the organization, your organization. Here's a few things to keep in mind to better understand programmatic. And I think a lot of people struggle with it because they want to understand it like they do search, for example, which is very simple to understand. You bid on the keyword, you buy it, you don't. It comes up on the search results page. It's very black and white. Programmatic, is not black and white. There really is no set way of doing things. There are, best practices, obviously, but there is a lot of gray area. Okay. Like I mentioned previously, it's not just cheap traffic. There's plenty of great premium publishers available in the open exchanges or through private deals, which is something that we'll discuss later on in the following lesson. Programmatic, like I mentioned, is audience, not media. The goal is to hit the right audience. Okay. So programmatic gets us that much closer to focusing on the right audience. And finally, I put Lego blocks or pipes because I think of it this way. When you're constructing a trade desk or a programmatic department, the way you set up operations can be pretty flexible, and the way you run campaigns can be adjusted to obviously the goals of your company or your organization. And it's sort of like Lego blocks. You can build it as what you need. You can connect the pipes that you need, and you can change that around. So I think that's why with these points is why people have such a more difficult time understanding programmatic than they do, say, search or even social, for that matter. Finally, we have the quiz. These are the questions that are going to be on in the quiz section. I want to thank you for following along. If you have any questions, please leave them on the bottom of this lesson. Thank you so much.